That should have been Trump's first inclination that this is not a good guy. When your dumb ass fail son is the one telling you like, Dad, this is probably a good guy. We got to go with him. That's a red flag, dude. I'm saying it. Check his true social is JD Vance. After lengthy deliberation and thought, and considering the tremendous talents in others, I've decided that the person best suited to assume the position of the Vice President of the United States is Senator JD Vance of the great state of Ohio. 2024 is the year of the Hasanabi vindication year. Hasanabi, how many months? How many months did you know? How many months ago did you know? If you're in here, you already knew this was gonna happen. Now, my heart was with Doug Burgum the entire time, but my brain was saying, you know, it's going to be JD Vance. You knew that already. Anyway, JD honorably served our country in the Marine Corps, graduated from Ohio State University in 2 years, summa cum laude, and is a Yale Law School graduate, where he was the editor of the Yale Law Journal and president of the Yale Law Veterans Association. JD's book, Hillbilly Elegy, became a major bestseller and movie as it championed the hardworking men and women of our country. JD has had a very successful business career in technology and finance, and now, during the campaign, this shit isn't funny? Why not? You think it's not? You think it isn't funny that Donald Trump is so goddamn cucked that he took one of Peter Thiel's blood boys as his vice president, even though Peter Thiel's like, I don't know if I'm going to give any money to the Republican Party any longer, while simultaneously this Peter Thiel blood boy literally made a career early on being an anti-Trump, never Trump Republican who called Donald Trump Hitler. I think it's pretty funny. It'll work. I don't trust anything. What? Anyway, will be strongly focused on the people he fought so brilliantly for, the American workers, farmers of Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Minnesota, and far beyond. I think he thinks that like Democrats in these places will be like, or independents in these places will be like, oh yeah, JD Vance is sick. We love JD Vance. Told you, okay? I freaking told you. I freaking told you, man. Anyway. Damn, dude, let your dog walk around a little bit. Shh, don't even talk to me about that. Okay? I posted this yesterday as well. How are you so good at predicting everything? I'm not. Here's the message JD Vance sent to his friend suggesting Donald Trump might be America's Hitler. Let's go. Maybe he meant it as a positive. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So ultimately, the VP pick by Trump doesn't really matter, right? The VP pick always is relatively inconsequential. The VP pick usually, unless it's like Sarah Palin, right? And you know, you take a shot in the dark on right-wing populism with a candidate that's like relatively moderate, and everyone, you know, everyone starts focusing on your insanely intelligent, but also utterly insane VP pick. It's oftentimes not that consequential. I don't think Vance brings in any additional votes, any new votes. I don't even know if Vance is going to make Trump seem more moderate, but Vance is just going to do whatever the fuck. Vance is going to do whatever the fuck Trump wants him to do. So if Trump wants him to go moderate, he'll go moderate. Trump wants him to go extreme, he'll go extreme. So you're saying Vance is not utterly insane? No, he's not utterly insane at all. JD Vance has no unique or independent convictions beyond the fact that he is the bloodless sociopath, Silicon Valley, elite educated rich guy masquerading as salt of the earth, as Alex Press correctly points out. Couldn't get more annoying for anyone who actually wants to build working class power. He's just a regular run of the mill grifter. Okay? JD Vance praises Project 2025 4 days ago. That actually makes a lot of sense as well, because he's like exactly the type of person that loves that Heritage Foundation shit. I know you hate Chris Rufo. The difference between Trump 2016 and Trump 2024 is that there is now an emerging right-wing counter-elite with sufficient knowledge, wealth, and power and prestige to advance the president's agenda through the institutions. Trump 2.0 will be an order of magnitude more effective. Yeah, dude, all the t-shirt salesmen. Yeah, I mean, he's wish casting, I think. Like, the MAGA party is the Republican Party. The Republican Party is the MAGA party, okay? I don't think that there's, like, significant ideological differences between Trump. Like, the only difference is that Trump is so personally invested in the most narcissistic way in the continuation of his own career and his own life and his own lifeline. But beyond that, there's not going to be like genuine differences. That's why Project 2025 so perfectly aligns with Trump's agenda. Even if Trump reads the room and recognizes that probably makes him look bad, because people are getting afraid of Project 2025. This is pretty funny. Nikki Haley's son reacts to the news of Senator JD Vance's selection as Trump's VP. Breaking, Tim Scott calls off wedding. You know, 2 VPs with beards. 2 VP hopefuls with beards. What about a big boost to right-wing voter turnout as an issue post-attempt? Here's the thing. As far as this assassination attempt goes, this is not a conversation about diehard Republicans voting for the Republican Party versus diehard Democrats voting for the Democratic Party. This conversation is now about people who have previously voted for the Republican Party that are in the margins, that or are independents and moderates that are not exactly fond of Donald Trump because of his chaotic demeanor. And for the Democratic Party, it's those same guys. And on top of that, it's the guys that the Democratic Party has always historically relied on in every election cycle. Youth vote, okay? Hispanic votes in, not Florida, but Hispanic votes in New Mexico, Nevada, Arizona, places like that. The Democratic Party has basically cast aside those very important constituencies so that they can win over the older, educated white voters who live in the suburbs, the independents and the moderates. Okay? Post-shooting, post-assassination attempt, will Donald Trump be able to show those guys in the suburbs that the Democrats have desperately tailored their entire messaging around securing? Will they go back to Donald Trump? Will Donald Trump be able to show them that he is more moderate? He wouldn't be able to do so if the Democrats actually were able to put together a better candidate, a more dynamic candidate, and a candidate that like is able to communicate that Donald Trump is not a moderate. Okay? Think we all really need to take time out here to spread the message of unity and just decide Joe Biden must pull all Democratic advertising before November? It's just too soon. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. When you get an assassination attempt, you just have to, you can't run against them any longer. No, they won't. You can't pretend to be moderate at the 11th hour, man, not after 8 years of being the most unhinged politician on the planet. My friend, you are discounting how much amnesia Americans have, how susceptible Americans are to marketing, and last but not least, how stupid Americans are. And yes, I ran the ad break at the top of the hour for the record. Some of you saw it, some of you didn't. Okay? American voters are very dumb. Most voters are very dumb. We are kept dumb deliberately by a media landscape that is, purposefully driving home certain idiotic narratives. Okay? It's just, we're kept docile, servile, and stupid deliberately. I was explaining this to my friend who was in denial that Trump could ever win. Yeah. No new Fear and today and no fun day all weekend. Fear and, unfortunately, was taken down by YouTube that demonetized it, and we're trying to put it back up. Year of the Snake Oil Salesman. Congrats to our first auto fiction VP. Oh, here, this was fun. Here is JD Vance going up to a UAW picket line in Toledo.
Nice to see you, Marcy.
Good to see you. Yeah. First time here?
First time here. Yep.
Thank you for coming.
Of course.
All right, what can we do for you?
Marcy Capture, welcome Senator JD Vance says, first time here. Now, I also, just like everybody else said, Reagan landslide incoming when Donald Trump got shot. because I have no confidence in the Democratic Party. But you have to remember, people still hate Trump. I still hate Trump. My opinion on Trump did not change. Your opinion on Trump did not change. Your parents' opinion on Trump did not change. Will the suburbanite moderate opinion on Trump change is the real question here. Okay? That's the real story. What does it mean when McConnell gets booted the RNC? It's just Donald Trump's party. That's it. And McConnell is a fossil, and he is presented as a rhino. Donald Trump has basically positioned himself against McConnell. Is there any way this pick is purposely bad because he makes more money with no responsibility this way? No. All right. Let's look at JD Vance's background a little bit further.
Trump has shaped in his image. By picking Vance, Trump is showing he's doubling down on this MAGA agenda. It's a full-throated, populist, national conservative ticket.
Here's why the Trump-Vance ticket is a big deal for the future of the MAGA movement and the GOP. JD Vance first catapulted to fame in 2016 after he published his memoir, Hillbilly Elegy. The book detailed his experience growing up poor in Rust Belt, Ohio.
I think one of the funniest things about JD Vance is that the liberals made him. Like, literally. Liberals made this man. And because liberals made this man, the liberals can break this man. And they will. Okay? They will. Trust me, they will. Okay? Like, he has so much shit on his background. Like, starting off with calling Trump Hitler. Oh, God. He is just wide open.
Ohio, and making it to Yale Law School. It was a smash hit and became a Ron Howard-directed movie in 2020.
I know I could have done better, but you got to decide.
Yeah, this is perfect. He's such an ugly baby. He was an ugly child, which was reflected in the Netflix special.
You want to be somebody or not?
We're trying to paint this white national.
This is why he has a beard, by the way. Look at him. Look at him. He looks like he wants chocolate. No beard. He is like the classic young Republican archetype where it's like, is this guy 45 or 14? I can't tell. Look at this Augustus Gloop looking ass motherfucker dude.
Nationalist movement as a movement primarily of poor and working class Americans, when the truth is that the alt-right is actually led by better educated and frankly pretty well-to-do people.
In his initial foray into the public spotlight, Vance was very much anti-Trump. His book made clear that he was a conservative. Many people latched onto it as an explanation for Trump's sort of surprise success in the Republican Party and then in the election.
When Vance launched his campaign for the Senate in 2021, his stance on Trump underwent a big shift.
I obviously didn't fully appreciate the president's appeal in 2016.
Yeah, he said some bad things about me, but that was before he knew me, and then he fell in love.
He even described himself to me in one interview as a flip-flop flipper on Trump, saying that he had similar policy views but was against Trump as a person until he realized that Trump was advocating for the policies that he supported.
While running for Senate...
What does that even mean? Like, so you're stupid? So you're saying that you're dumb? No, you're just a two-faced little bitch.
Vance was one of several pro-Trump candidates in the primary. But in one debate, Vance was the lone candidate to oppose a NATO-enforced no-fly zone over Ukraine. And that caught the eye of Trump's inner circle.
What a no-fly zone, it sounds nice, like we asked the Russians not to fly planes over Ukraine. What it means in practice is American Marine Corps pilots, Air Force pilots, and Navy pilots getting in dogfights with Russian jets, which the problem with that is it's not in our vital national interest.
That impressed Donald Trump Jr., and he began advocating for Vance's.
That should have been Trump's first inclination that this is not a good guy. Okay? When your dumbass fail son is the one telling you, like, this is, Dad, this is probably a good guy. We got to go with him. Your cokehead son. That's a red flag, dude.
Candidacy, including with...
I mean, it's ironic because, like, he's not wrong when he was talking about the no-fly zone. And obviously, they didn't do it because it would have been insane. but like, regardless.
His father.
Worse instincts.
Trump's unique brand of conservative politics has been reshaping the core tenets of the Republican Party since he was elected in 2016, like tighter borders and a retreat from the world.
Hunter Biden is a crackhead law. I know. but at least he's hot.
Stage. He's changed the GOP so much that the Republican National Committee recently revamped its platform to a new, stripped-down version, one that focuses more on Trump himself than on specific policy decisions.
Trump has been changing all of those stances to the point where many older Republicans feel it's no longer recognizable. At the same time, a movement has arisen in Trump's image that believes in his policies and believes that the Republican Party should be reshaped in his image.
Believers in this movement, referred to as the New Right or National Conservatives, take Trump's impulses and turn them into doctrine. Vance.
Yeah, you can't do that though, because Trump's impulses are only about self-preservation. He does not have a coherent ideological background. That's why this is like during the Trump administration for 4 years, Republicans would literally always do this thing where they'd be like, he's actually doing 5D chess, sir. And it was not 5D chess. What you see is what you get with Donald Trump. Like, he's very good at reading the room, for sure. Okay. And he's pretty decent at marketing himself. But the issue is he's never like a brilliant tactician. He's not like thinking ahead. He's thinking, how do I preserve my image here in this moment? How do I save myself? How do I do something that will ultimately put me on top? That's it. So trying to like create some kind of like coherent worldview off of those sentiments is always going to put you in a bind. You are not going to be coherent. You are always going to be at odds. Okay? You're gonna say conflicting shit.
Has become one of their leading voices.
The American people, again, they need people who put the interests of their own citizens first, of our own citizens first. And that's what this entire movement is all about. And I think that's what the Trump presidency will be about if we give him another shot, as I expect that we will.
When Trump selected Mike Pence to be his running mate, that was a pick very much intended to reassure Republican voters. Pence, being a traditional conservative, an evangelical Christian, was someone who regular Republicans who saw Trump as sort of an arriviste in their party could look at Pence and say, all right, that's someone I can trust. Fast forward to 2024, it's clear that Trump no longer sees a need to share power with that wing of the Republican Party.
Right after Trump's attempted assassination in July, Vance was one of the first Republicans to publicly cast blame at the Biden campaign for the shooting. As Republicans unite around the Trump-Vance ticket after the July 13th attack, Democrats remain in disarray following President Biden's disastrous debate performance in June. Biden has vowed to stay in the race despite continuing calls from fellow Democrats to step away from his place at the top.
Back then in July, well, these videos are made for the future. Like, that's why they're using that kind of weird naming convention for the date.
Top of the ticket.
I think there's a whole pool of voters there in the center of the electorate who really are not being spoken to by either candidate because of the way these tickets have shaped up.
Senators Marco Rubio from Florida and Tim Scott from South Carolina were also contenders on Trump's VP shortlist. Both could have appealed more to minority voters, something that Trump has historically struggled with. Choosing Vance allows Trump to shore up support among the white working class.
Ohio is also part of the Rust Belt, and the most crucial states in this election are those Rust Belt states. That white working class vote is a vote that is also...
Yeah, I don't think he's captivating anybody in the Rust Belt. I don't. He does not look, nor does he sound like a Rust Belt guy. He does not have the aesthetic appeal that you would have in a situation like that. He is not in the Rust Belt for most of his life. He went to Yale, and his most significant accomplishment is writing a book about how the Rust Belt kind of sucks and is filled to the brim with heroin addicts. So I don't think, like, for liberals who are out of touch with the Rust Belt, liberals in the Upper West Side and the Upper East Side, yeah, they think he's a Rust Belt guy. They think he's the Rust Belt whisperer. Okay, but those guys are voting Democrat anyway. I don't think a single person from Kentucky or a single person from West Virginia or a single person from like Michigan or any of these other places is looking at JD Vance and being like, I'm a Republican and I love Donald Trump's pick for JD Vance. Okay, I love Donald Trump's pick for JD Vance. It's my favorite guy. Like, no shot. No shot.
Also very crucial throughout those Rust Belt battlegrounds, there is a hope by some of Vance's backers and some on Trump's team that he could potentially galvanize those voters even more than Trump already does to juice Republican turnout in those states.
What was the Russia collusion hoax? It was about destroying.
Like, Fetterman, despite being an ogre, as a chatter also pointed out, despite being an ogre, is significantly more appealing on the aesthetic front to the average, Western Pennsylvania voter. Okay? John Fetterman is literally an ogre. He sucks. He's out of control with his with his unimaginably right-wing narratives on Israel, his hyper focus on Israel, his hyper fixation on Israel is weird as but beyond that, when you look at him, dude wears Carhartt all the time, is dressed the part. Like, he aesthetically is more appealing to these kinds of people than someone like JD Vance is. People from the Rust Belt know what JD Vance is. They look at him and they know immediately what he is. Bloodless politician, possibly a secret liberal. You know what I mean? It's just, he's not the guy. Okay. In the same way that Josh Hawley is not the guy.
You'll be ready with your questions, and we'll get right back to you, Jacob. Thanks so much for your
he's going to be
reporting from the
officially
floor.
nominated
Joining
here.
me now right here on set in Milwaukee is Florida Republican Congressman Carlos Jimenez. Congressman, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Anyway, we'll get back to this in a second. I want to finish off this Wall Street Journal video.
Destroying Donald Trump. This ridiculous New York fraud case. It's about destroying the guy's wealth before he re-enters the Oval Office.
It's good to see you, man. Thank you.
He is really a bet on the future as well, a bet on the future of the Republican Party and a bet on the future of the populist conservative movement. Trump would never say he's anointing a successor, but Vance was decades younger than the other potential picks that were under consideration for vice president. And in choosing such a young person to be on the ticket with him, there's an unavoidable implication that Trump has sort of chosen an heir, chosen someone to take the mantle of that MAGA movement and go forward with it, whether it's as a future president himself or simply as someone who is poised to exert great influence in the Republican Party, continuing to shape it along those populist conservative lines for years or potentially decades to come.
So you got that. This is pretty funny, but living in Ohio, worked in a bookstore when Hillbilly Trilogy came out. All my liberal coworkers were hyping up that book to every customer, raving about it. I bet they're all collapsing under self-hatred right now. Maybe I should check in on them. Yeah. So what is this? The RNC teleprompter goes out and Mike Johnson has to immediately flee the stage. Yikes. Oh, Michael Penis. That's awesome. This is a quick aside, but if you want a quick live update on how the RNC is going, this is hilarious, and I'm sure you would love it since you did this professionally before. Yeah, it ain't easy. Not everybody could pop off with no teleprompter like Donald Trump can. You really think Trump is thinking about the future of the Republican Party with an air? No. That's just silliness, okay? That's just complete silliness. Donald Trump is not thinking about anything beyond his next steps, okay? Anyway, are you coming to Wisconsin? No, I'm not. I couldn't get into RNC. So, this was a wonderful ad from JD Vance, by the way. Let's watch this real quick.
Are you a racist? Do you hate Mexicans? The media calls us racist for wanting to build Trump's wall. They censor us, but it doesn't change the truth. Joe Biden's open border is killing Ohioans, with more illegal drugs and more Democrat voters pouring into this country. This issue is personal. I nearly lost my mother to the poison coming across our border.
How can you hate this guy? Wow, what a good ad.
Are you a racist? Do you hate Mexicans?
Like, that's insane, brother. Who the
that from the other room?
Who the fuck thought this was a good idea, bro? Like, that's great. Great. Phenomenal political instincts from this man, okay?
Do you hate Mexicans? Sounds like a drug ad.
Are you a racist? Do you hate Mexicans?
Actually, wasn't he getting
the media calls us racist for wanting to build Trump?
Yeah,
that's the mode he's stuck in. He's like, I have to just do drug ads for the rest of my life.
Yeah, no, he's big pharma boy.
Trump's wall. They censor us, but it doesn't change the truth. Joe Biden's open border is killing Ohioans, with more illegal drugs and more Democrat voters pouring into this country. This issue is personal. I nearly lost my mother to the poison coming across our border. No child should grow up an orphan. I'm JD Vance, and I approve this message because whatever they call us, we...
She divorced his dad to hook up with a hot Latino guy. I nearly lost my mom to the boys.
Yeah. No, Dude, it's so funny to be like, I'm a racist who hates Mexicans, and also my mom is a filthy drug addict. Vote for me. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Anyway, no immigrant coming into this country is going to Ohio. I mean, he should stay clear. Yeah. It's so funny because, like, yeah, he's a big pharma boy himself. You see JD Vance's tweets and fully understand why his mom traded him for some Perk 30s. Oh, that's a banger. The way he calls himself an orphan as if he isn't 45. Yeah. So, it's he's a bad guy. He's not a good candidate. Okay.
I mean, there's a niche that would love him.
Yeah, but that niche is not driving home the Republican Party to victory, to like election success. And that niche that would supposedly love him is also sometimes at odds with the Republican Party's position on Israel, if we're talking about the same niche here.
Yeah, right.
Those guys are also like, oh man, Trump actually sold out to the Jews guys. You know what I mean? So I don't think they're fond of JD Vance that much either. You know? That niche loves him, is quote tweeting Aleksa right now trying to debate about Israel. JD Vance called Trump Hitler in the past. How did he get the pick? Yeah, we're going to talk about that as well.
But he said that as a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know. Here, let's look at Brian Tyler Cohen from More Perfect Union doing a JD Vance video.
JD Vance, the investment banker, author, and now politician, built a career for himself on the idea that he's a man of the people who just so happens to have been successful and gotten rich.
I think that those of us who are lucky enough to have had the life that I've had have a certain responsibility to not completely forsake the people.
He's so fat, dude. He's so plump.
He looks like
he's
a
not
cherub.
fat in like a cool way. He's not fat like in a JB Pritzker or even in a Trump style way. He's just like fat in the worst way possible.
Well, it looks like he's been attacked by bees. It's that kind of fat.
He has that like weird, why do you hate fat so much? No, I love, first of all, I love people going, oh, we're fat phobic now. No, you don't understand. My favorite politicians are literally, most of them are fat. Okay. They're big boys. They're chubby boys. He, on the other hand, is like not fat in an appealing way. Okay. He has like, he doesn't have that big boy status. He just looks like a plump child. Okay, it's not good.
He looks like he'd be on the wrappers for like a Kinder Surprise or something, like a nice German kid.
Yeah, exactly. He just looks like he needs chocolate.
Uta.
Yeah, like he's not JB Pritzker status big boy. He's just like, oh, I need some chocolates. Chocolade. That's what he looks like. I need Imerte Chocolade.
People that we came from.
His 2016
Wo ist meine Strudel?
memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, was heralded for shining light on the unheard white working class of Ohio. His investment firms focus on the areas underserved by traditional venture capital, and the mainstream media put him on TV for years as an expert on the working class. And he does talk about the
by liberals, though. That's the problem. He was presented as an expert for the white working class by liberals. I hate this genre of like white working class whisper dumbasses, because like the Red Scare podcast does this shit too. Almost all of it is like conducted by, for Red Scare podcast, it's literally like art history PhDs talking with like the worst vocal fry you've ever seen about how like, oh, you just have to be transphobic if you want to win like working class votes. Have you heard the working class? They like hate trans people. They're always talking about trans people. Like that's the Red Scare version of it. And then the Republican or not the Republican, but the liberal version of that is literally JD Vance, who's basically saying that as well, was basically saying that same shit, but like this time to MSNBC watchers.
Problems working Ohioans face.
The opioid addiction is arguably the worst public health crisis that has existed in this country for 30 or 40 years. Gasoline, food, used cars.
If you're paying more for energy, everything's getting more expensive.
The elites in the ruling class of this country are robbing us blind.
Dude, you went to Yale. You are Peter Thiel's blood boy. What are you saying? You're a Silicon Valley guy who wrote a book about how the Appalachians are drug addicts.
But now that he's running for office, what would a Senator JD Vance actually mean for working Ohioans? We can tell by looking at how Vance got to this point. It's a story of comically evil billionaires, the people responsible for the opioid epidemic.
Yeah, I hate I hate the big bankers and big business, except for Peter Thiel. He's like, I hate
talk shit about
He's
him.
like, oh yeah, I hate gay people, except for Peter Thiel.
The famous vampire as well.
Yeah.
Epidemic, and even killer robots. For my next collaboration with the classroom team at More Perfect Union, make sure to subscribe to them too, we looked into what side JD Vance is actually on. The working class world he came from, or the elite Silicon Valley billionaire world he moved up into.
The elites in the ruling class of this country are robbing us blind.
Vance's donors, past work, investments, and the personal beliefs he admits to out loud make it clear. Vance is using the working class narrative as a way to enrich himself and the powerful people supporting him, all at the cost of the people he says he's helping, like you. Let's dig in. Part of JD Vance's story is how he managed to rise to elite spaces from an upbringing in working class Kentucky and Ohio. His mother struggled with addiction, and he was raised by his grandparents.
For the most part, by his grandmother, Mama. Did I pronounce that correctly?
That's right. But he joined the Marines and got into Yale Law School, and today he is very, very rich. He owns millions of dollars of assets and brings in a venture capital salary 10 times that of the average Ohioan. And that's just the cash salary, not including his investment gains. A lot of that is thanks to a 2011 lecture that Vance calls the most significant moment of my time at Yale Law School. The speaker, Peter Thiel, Silicon Valley billionaire of PayPal Mafia fame. Look at any big tech company and Thiel's fingerprints are probably on it.
I met a guy who was a venture capitalist, Peter Thiel, in Silicon Valley.
I love the Silicon Valley jacket.
No, just show the Patagucci every time. It's over, okay?
So fucked.
There's no better way to destroy this man other than just showing this angle, no beard, wearing the Patagucci, okay? That's it. That's it. Like, that's the guy, dude? That's the working class whisperer, dude? Yeah? He doesn't even look the part. Ted Cruz does a better job LARPing as a real Texan man when he wears the snakeskin boots and shit. Okay? What's wrong with Patagonia? Says the dude who's a 17-month subscriber, probably living in a liberal safe haven and a reliable Democratic Party voter for the most part. Yeah, exactly, dude. He is a Silicon Valley tech bro. There is a million of these guys in Connecticut, okay?
When I was at law school, and one thing led to another, and I found myself in Silicon Valley working for him.
Vance yada yada yada's over a lot there.
One thing led to another, and I found myself in Silicon Valley working for him.
But Thiel took Vance under his wing and gave him the network he needed to build a massive investment portfolio with several different funds. Thiel was one of the first people to read early drafts of Vance's memoir and even blurb the book.
The first person I asked for a blurb is this guy, Peter Thiel, who I was working for at the time, and he was an investor in Silicon Valley and remains sort of involved in a lot of the projects that I'm working on.
And Thiel is still taking care of JD. He was an early supporter of Vance's Senate campaign, pouring millions of dollars into a pro-Vance super PAC before Vance even announced his campaign. In fact, Thiel has donated more to Vance than anyone has ever donated to a single Senate race.
Wait, what?
Yep,
More
you
than
heard
he gave
that
to
right.
Trump?
Thiel has spent more money trying to get this guy elected than anyone has ever spent on a single.
Peter Thiel tried to do like a Koch brothers style, like a Peter Thiel had a couple dudes that he like pumped money into. Those were his guys, and one of them was Blake Masters, which was a insane failure in Arizona, and also the wait, why are people saying F? And also Vance, JD Vance and Blake Masters were like his two guys.
Candidate. Why would Thiel, a man who made his billions in tech and was on the board of Facebook until February,
He's just got no eyebrows. He's so evil. like
Voldemort.
He's so evil looking, which I would not say because I am scared of him. He's one of the few evil billionaires that I am legitimately afraid of.
Do you think there's a chance he watches you?
No, thank God. Like, I am less afraid of Elon Musk than I am of Peter Thiel, though. Like, this is a man who took down Gawker. He is very vindictive. He literally has blood boys like a vampire, and may or may not, allegedly, under suspicious circumstances, his boyfriend killed himself. Definitely wasn't murdered. I would never say that. I would never say that about Peter Thiel's boyfriend 2 years ago or a year ago. I can't remember exactly when it was.
Want this guy in office.
It's time to stop complaining about big tech. It's time to start writing them strong letters, and it's time to start doing something about it.
And it's not just Thiel donating to Vance. Vance's top donor list looks like a guest list for a union-busting seminar at Davos. The job title among Vance's donors that donated the most total money isn't nurse or construction worker, it's CEO, which is concerning because I thought I heard someone say,
The elites in the ruling class of this country are robbing us blind.
But really, why would America's elites support someone who claims to be fighting against America's elites? Looking at some of the specific issues Vance talks about makes it clear. Take the opioid crisis. Vance blames everything from immigration to low church attendance, but never points the finger at the people most responsible, Purdue Pharmaceuticals. The Classroom team made a full video on Purdue's role in creating this epidemic. Vance's charity, Our Ohio Renewal, promised to work with Ohioans affected by the opioid crisis, and he brought in an expert, Dr. Sally Sattel. Sounds great in concept, but Sattel was from the American Enterprise Institute, which took money from Purdue. Sattel herself had cited Purdue-sponsored research and papers about opiate pain relief. That is a trend for Vance. He points out a problem, then allies with the elites linked to causing it. Like how Vance talks about gas prices.
When energy prices go up, who benefits? Industries that don't require energy. Wall Street, big tech, universities.
Even though one of Vance's top donors is John Addison, a trader for Vitol, a Dutch energy company. In 2020, Vitol was accused of organizing an illegal price-fixing scheme, manipulating California's gasoline markets. They falsely drove up the price of gas for consumers to increase their profits. A lawsuit was filed by California State, implicating Vance's top donor Addison in his conspiracy. So when Vance asks,
when energy prices go up, who benefits?
The answer is his own donors who are literally manipulating gas prices for their own benefit. Vance is shrewdly addressing the problems facing Ohioans, blaming the wrong people, and then allying with those who are really to blame. Which brings us back to Vance's billionaire benefactor, Peter Thiel, and Vance's relationship with big tech.
When the technology
I'm not familiar
industry
with right-wing law.
sitting
What's the
president of the
argument
United
for immigrants causing the opioid crisis? That bit I missed. I don't really.
It's awesome. So they say that immigrants are shipping drugs over the border, like when they're doing illegal crossings, like they're sneaking in the drugs, which, by the way, there is zero evidence for. And I cannot stress this enough. They claim that immigrants are actually mules that are like shipping in drugs, okay? When in fact, the Department of Homeland Security's own data shows that it is not immigrants that are border crossing that are shipping in drugs. 94% of all drugs coming into the United States illegally is coming from regular points of entry through the ports, through the actual border crossings, like legal methods. Because the reality is, for the tons and tons of fentanyl and chemicals to make fentanyl, like for that product to cross through the border, you could not stuff it in the pockets of an otherwise law-abiding abuela, but you would have to literally put it in cars. And that's precisely how the cartel operates. They put it in cars. They literally chop up vehicles driven by white people usually, but American citizens specifically, that are less likely to be stopped at the border. They chop those cars up and they shove the cars full of fentanyl and fentanyl components. And that's how they cross the border. That's it. They use tunnels, they use regular shipping containers, and they use vehicles when we're talking about like, big amounts of fentanyl.
You can make that stuff here, right?
Well, I mean, you still need the chemicals and shit. Why do I know this? Well, I don't know, because I'm not a dumbass. Like, that's it. That's it. That's the reason why I know this, because it's I look at the data, number one, and number two, I'm not an idiot. All right, here's the charismatic JD Vance.
He
looks better.
Someone who was once
Well, because the beard, yeah.